I'm Jerry McAdams. It looks like most of those people here are not new. Is anybody here this first time? Okay, 1, 2, 3, okay. You're not the first time.
He's new, all right.
He's new. Yeah. Thank you for coming. Today we're going to talk about DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. Hey, you memorize that, that good? Okay. Of course, you people who've been here understand where I come from on most of these scientific issues, is that there is some type of implication or indication of design in nature. And of course, I won't take that position today, so that's why you're here to keep me honest, tell me what you think. Okay, so I welcome that. I think this presentation might take 20 minutes or 25 minutes, and then we'll be able to talk freely. And I would like to keep it to that. Last time I kind of lost control. And people, we had questions in the middle of stuff. So let's hold it to the end, too. I know you guys have a whole bunch of good things to say. All right. DNA, what does it tell us? First of all, what is it? Deoxyribonucleic acid. It is a self-replicating material present in nearly all living organisms as the main constituent of chromosomes. It is a carrier of genetic information. Now, it's a lot more than that, but that's really the basis for it. It's the genetics that is inside you, or even in a plant, or an animal, or even an insect. All living matter, with a few exceptions, I think viruses, who people think may not even be living matter. The viruses do not have DNA, but other organisms have DNA. Now, I'll say this up front, that since we're all imbued with DNA, when I say all, I mean all organisms, even amoeba, or bacteria, or a dog, or cat, or humans. Environmentalist theory has always used that as a reason to say, or an evidence of, that we all come from a ancestor, same ancestor at some point in way back when. Okay, but that's the argument, and my argument would be that's a decent argument. And my decent argument is, if you were a designer of life, why would you use 50,000 different templates? You use one idea. It's a design. A horse has 4 legs and a nose and 2 eyes. Humans have the same thing. Their DNA will look a little bit alike. That would be my position. Now let's go through this and see what you think. All right, question is, what's the history of DNA? This is really a brief one, but I didn't want to bore you with a lot of history. In college, when I took history classes, I fell asleep after about 5 minutes of class. Johann Gregor Mendel was the father of genetics. He studied the genetics of garden peas and developed the concept of genes and how offspring characteristics are determined by the characteristics of the parents. Now, we all know that. Give you a little quiz here. Just I'll give you authority to answer. If you have blue eyes, and your wife, I'm a man, if your spouse has blue eyes, what color are the eyes of your children? They're blue. Now, why is that?
They're recessive.
Okay, it's recessive. This is what Gregor Mendel figured out. When he looked at peas, some of the peas were yellow and some of the peas were red-green, and actually the yellow peas were dominant, actually.
Really?
Yes. But if you have brown eyes, and your wife has brown eyes, and your child has blue eyes, is there something wrong with that?
Yeah, somewhere down the line, they had some blue-eyed relatives.
I'll say that the statement is that there's a way to have a blue-eyed child from brown-eyed people, because the dominant gene is brown. So if I have a brown and a blue-eyed gene, I'm going to be brown. So 25% of children born to brown-eyed parents will possibly have blue eyes. And the other 75% would have brown. That would be if you had enough kids, you could test that. But Nobody has 100 kids to test them. So. But that's the idea what Gregor Mendel came up with. In 1903, Walter Sutton wrote 3 articles demonstrating the connection between Mendelian genetics and chromosomes. The chromosomes back in Mendel's time wasn't even known. So here we are progressing through what genetics is. In 1909, scientists were able to separate the acidic material. They called it a nucleic acid because it came from the nucleus of the cell. Don't ask me how in 1909 they figured out it came from the nucleus of the cell, because I guess they had good microscopes back in those days. So they identified a deoxyribose sugar called ribose. So you put those things together, deoxyribose nucleic acid, and that you get the name DNA. That's where it came from. Okay. In 1953 was the big breakthrough in DNA study, and James Watson and Francis Crick discovered the structure of DNA. Now I studied or read about these gentlemen and how that came about. It's quite fascinating how they actually came about this. You know, Francis Crick was a really brilliant man, but he wasn't really a biologist. He was in something else, but he got into this and learned it. The kind of person that can learn anything. You know, most of us, I went to school and got an engineering degree, but somebody went to school and got a political science degree, somebody got an English degree. And you know, you have a mind to be able to do, some people can do anything. And he was one of those guys. Well, here's how it's constructed. Brief diagram. Now that's the same background I've been using, but it's kind of good to show that. You start with a phosphate sugar backbone, and there's 2 of them. And they call this a double helix. This is how they found out, they finally were able to look at a DNA strand and they could see how it was actually designed physically. The phosphate sugar backbone. You start with nucleotides, and there are only 4 of them, okay? All right, there's adenine, thymine, guanine, and crystosine. And these are the 4. So these little things in here between the 2 sugars, say these 2, these are bound in the middle by a hydrogen bond. Okay, so that's a chemical bonding. And you have base pairs. Okay, that's 2 base pairs. You can see those there too. And the human DNA has about 3.5 billion base pairs in the DNA. We'll go through that a little more later. What I'm trying to do is just give you a basis for what a DNA structure is. And does anybody here already knew all of this stuff? Okay, good. All right. What are the functions of DNA? First, coding for proteins. Your body's made up of proteins. Everything that pretty much happens in your body is done by proteins. Okay? And it's not like a steak.
My cheese is good like that.
Yeah. Well, there are proteins, fat cells, that's true. DNA holds the code for proteins, which are complex molecules that do huge amounts of work around the body. Now you notice I have some numbers, words underlined. The reason I underline these is because what you see here is a language about what's happening that is something that seems like computer language that you would talk when you talk about a computer, how it worked. Okay? This is not what I wrote. This is coming out of scientific literature. Is that what's taught in schools? Information in DNA is initially read, and then it is transcribed into a messenger molecule. Afterwards, the information held in this messenger molecule is translated into a language that the body can understand. This language is one of amino acids, which are also known as the building blocks of proteins. It is this specific language that dictates how the amino acid should produce a particular protein. If you think about the 20 different kinds of amino acids, you can see that the ordering can produce an enormous variety of proteins.